Hey guys, it's Alex Hager here from Tech Taboo, and today we're going to be taking a look, doing a countdown here, the top 5 cameras you can get for under $1,000. Alright, so the reason I want to do a countdown today is every time I post a video or every time I'm with friends and they ask me about photography or videography, they always ask me, what gear do I use? Or they say, Alex, what camera should I buy? What's the best for the money? If I'm a videographer, what should I get? If I'm a photographer, what should I get? And so today, I kind of wanted to give you guys options. I've had the luxury of using a lot of cameras, so I kind of have a different feel for certain ones, and I understand why you might want one over the other. Some of them have more features or different to use, so we're going to cover just about as much as we can in a short amount of time. Just because I put one in front of the other in this list does not mean that one is better than the other. What is the most important with photography and videography is obviously the person using it, but the camera body is not the only factor. I think any of the cameras on this list would make a great choice for you. Please have a little extra money to invest in a lens so you can get the most out of your camera. Starting off this list is the Nikon D5500. The Nikon D5500 is going to run you anywhere between $800 to $900 with the kit lens. Once again, since Nikon is a big company, you'll be able to get really nice lenses for pretty cheap. I would definitely recommend checking out the used market for that too, whether that's Amazon or Craigslist. Now the D5500 is going to be more of your traditional shooter. So if you're used to using like a Canon or a Nikon or something along those lines, I think this would be a great pick for you. It's a great starting camera or just one to use as well. It has an APS-C sensor, which means that it's going to let in a little bit less light than a full frame camera, which is a 35mm sensor. When you attach a lens to it, if it's designed for full frame, you're going to get a bigger zoom because it's a lighter sensor, so there's something called a crop factor, and that's 1.5 times. So if you were to take the same photo on an APS-C and a same photo on a full frame, the full frame is going to look like it's farther away, even though they're the same distance. So this Nikon camera is an APS-C, or what Nikon likes to call their DX format cameras. It's got 24.2 megapixels, which is actually pretty decent. So if you're looking to blow photos up or view them on a very high resolution monitor, they're going to look great. As well as that, being a Nikon camera, you're going to have tons of lens options. So if you're looking to do wildlife or sports photography, this camera is going to have tons of options for lenses, so it is definitely not a bad choice. On top of that, you're going to get 1080p recording at 60p. So that means 60 frames per second, 1080p recording. You're going to have a lot of options for recording video, and it's definitely not going to be the best video recorder camera on this list, but if you're looking for a traditional shooter with a nice autofocus system that's reasonably priced from a trusted company, I would definitely check out the Nikon D5500. Next up on the list, we've got the Canon 70D. Now, I owned the previous generation of this camera for a very long time, and it was one of my favorite cameras, the Canon 60D, which is actually the strap I use on my camera now. In terms of specs, for megapixels, you're going to be looking at 20.2. So it's not going to be as great as the Nikon for blowing images up or seeing them on a bigger screen. However, having a lower megapixel allows you to capture better low light. So in this situation, if you're looking for a low light performer, the Canon is going to beat the Nikon. The 3.2-inch LCD on this Canon 70D is actually a touchscreen, and it swivels all the way around. So if you're looking to vlog on this or just get some nice touchscreen shots that you're used to with that kind of interface, this is going to be a great choice for you. The ISO on this Canon camera also maxes out at 25,600, and at 19 points, the autofocus is going to be a little less accurate than that Nikon. However, it can shoot up to 7 frames per second, so if you're at a football game, that is definitely a feature you're going to want to have. And since it is a Canon camera, just like how the Nikon one was a Nikon, these two brands are going to give you the biggest lens selection. Next on the list is the Panasonic LUMIX G7. This camera is following the incredibly successful Panasonic GH4. The GH4 made headlines for its incredible video capabilities. It was the first 4K camera to really deliver at a very low cost. So the G7 is even a more affordable version of the GH4. And for only $700 with a lens, this is an incredible buy. This Panasonic G7 has Wi-Fi sharing enabled, so it'll work as a great pairing device with your smartphone. On top of that, you're going to be able to record beautiful 4K footage. The autofocus during video mode is fantastic, and it has a swivel touchscreen, so if you're looking to vlog, this is one of the best choices you can get right now. The Panasonic G7 is a joy to use for video. In all honesty, the Nikon and the Canon are gonna kick its butt in photography. While the G7 is probably one of the best video cameras you can get for the money, there's definitely something to be expected for photography. The reason why it's not the greatest for photography is the Panasonic G7 is a micro four thirds camera, which means it has a 2x crop factor over full frame. So you're gonna get half the amount of light as a full frame camera. If you're a photographer, this would be one of the last choices I would recommend. But if you're looking to make YouTube videos or cinematic footage with the occasional photography on the side, the Panasonic G7 is an incredible choice. Now we have the Sony A6300. This camera is making all kinds of attention in the camera world right now. People have been getting on Canon and Sony, saying they're not innovating enough, they don't have enough features, they don't have video autofocus. There's a lot that are missing from these traditional shooters, and where Canon and Nikon are missing out, Sony is absolutely killing it right now. The Sony A6300 is one of the best cameras you can get regardless of price. It is feature-packed and a great deal for the money. Currently, the Sony A6300 has the world's fastest autofocus. It's got a beautiful APS-C CMOS sensor capturing 24.2 megapixels of glorious imagery, and it can shoot up to 11 frames per second. So if you're shooting sports or moving objects, this is a great choice. And for video recording, this is definitely one of the top performers on the list. It records full 4K footage that is actually downsampled from 6K, so you're gonna get a lot of that beautifulness when you bring it down a level. And it can record 1080p and up to 120 frames per second for some glorious slow-mo footage. Now this camera is actually not a DSLR, nor is the Panasonic G7. It has a beautiful electronic viewfinder, which works a little bit different from a DSLR. When you look inside of a DSLR, you'll see glass, you'll see the subject as it appears. But with an electronic viewfinder, you could do a better job of framing your shot because it shows you what your image is going to look like when you take it. So you can more accurately adjust your camera settings like aperture, ISO, and shutter speed. The Sony A6300 is very well built, and it includes tons of Wi-Fi capabilities that photo share directly to your phone. The only downside of this camera is honestly the fact that it doesn't have a touchscreen display, and for the market that it's in, it definitely should. In terms of lenses, you definitely aren't going to get the same versatility as you would with, say, Canon or Nikon. And Carl Zeiss lenses, which are often used on Sonys, are extremely expensive. I will say though, the clarity is definitely worth it. So if you pick up this camera, expect to be paying a bit for lenses as well. Lastly, we have my personal camera. So it may be a bit biased that I'm using my own camera, but for a really long time, I was looking for the best camera I could get for under $1,000. I actually sold my Canon 5D Mark II to get this thing. And you're probably thinking, why would you do that? The Canon 5D Mark II is a widely and well-regarded professional camera, and that it is, and I loved every single second of it. But in my opinion, mirrorless cameras are the future. They are a lot smaller, and they deliver more in the video market. The Samsung NX500 has a 28.2 megapixel APS-C CMOS sensor, and on this list, it probably has the best sensor for the best images possible. Its low light performance is definitely going to lose to the A6300, but for the average shooter, it's not bad at all. And that's what this is being filmed on right now. We're shooting in 4K, which is an option on this camera. You can shoot UHD, which is just below 4K at 30 frames per second, or 4K at 24 frames per second, which is what we're shooting right now. The NX500 has tons of Wi-Fi capability and Bluetooth to pair up with your smartphone. It works best with Samsung devices, but it also works great with my iPhone. If you're a vlogger, this camera is going to be a dream. It has a tiltable touchscreen that I'm happen to be looking at right now. So if you want to focus on a certain subject with the lens, you just click on my face, boom, it's in focus. Or using the continuous autofocus, I could put an object up here and it would focus. However, I am shooting on a manual lens, so my autofocus is disabled. The Samsung NX500 I think currently retails for about $800 with the kit lens. The battery life is not going to be as great as a Canon or Nikon, but batteries are cheap for this. You can get a knockoff. I got mine for like $8 and it works absolutely fantastic. You can shoot up to 9 frames per second on this device, which makes it a definite contender if you're shooting sports. I hope all this info on these cameras helped you make a decision. If you have any questions or things you'd like to see, be sure to leave them in the comments below. I read all of them and I'd love to help you on your purchase. I love my NX500, but any of the cameras on this list I think would do an incredible job. Just make sure you've got a great lens, a great body, and a willingness to learn. This is Alex Hager here from Tech Taboo, and I will see you guys next time.